What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Kirsten Potenza, CEO and founder of Pound, the Rockout Workout. You're listening to The Big Green Couch, where I sit down with noisemakers across various industries to discuss different topics, to bring new ideas, fresh perspectives, and practical tips to you, our community. Let's get started. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of The Big Green Couch. Today's guest could be defined in one word: badass. Emma Berry is a global fitness authority who consults to the fastest growing segments in fitness: boutique studios, budget clubs, digital workouts, and fit tech startups. She's a founding member of Les Mills International and the former director of programming for Equinox. Emma is fluent in what happens next in fitness and just launched her latest project, Good Soul Hunting. She is a sought-after speaker for events around the world, serves on a number of boards and advisories, and delights in lighting fires under people and projects. Welcome, Emma, to the Big Green Couch. Well, welcome, Emma. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh, so am I. How are you?
I'm good.
It was a loaded question.
I know, right? I always watch for people's facial expressions in the last 8 months for when I ask that question, because that's always more telling than the answer. And it is such a interesting question to answer. But I'm good. I'm like 6 days away from meeting my son, so it's kind of crazy.
Oh, sons are gorgeous. You're going to love it.
Yeah, I'm so excited. But on that note, which is kind of funny, but I always do start off every episode with this question: how are you? How is your heart, your mental state? How are you? I know this is a crazy time. For reference, we're like month 8 into COVID right now.
Yeah, we are. And look, today I'm fantastic. I've done the full rainbow of emotions, like I'm sure most people have. I'm absolutely fantastic because while I have been traveling a huge amount of my life, and I'm sorry because I think I brought this pandemic on us as well, because I did ask at the beginning of this year that I wanted to travel less. That's certainly come true. But look, I'm really good because I think for the first couple of months, everyone was like, what just happened? Like we kind of went through all of that. Then it was like the deep soul search as you realised that the deck chairs on the Titanic were being rearranged. And then when you came back, it was going to be completely different. So, all the pivoting and all those awful words that have come out over that time, how do you make yourself useful in a world that you don't even understand what it's going to look like as you come out or don't come out or go back in? So having been through all of that, I'm in a really good space, because even though I haven't been traveling, at the end of every Zoom or every podcast or every call is a very dear friend that, you've spent all this time and these years in your life really knowing people. And so I've actually enjoyed deeper relationships in this time because I've been limited and not been able to be face to face. I've had to rely on listening more and being available more and watching people be vulnerable more and actually seeing who they really are and who I really am. And I saw you see all those annoying throwbacks from Facebook and other places, and you see yourself in times gone by and you're like, wow, my hair looked great and my nails are on point and this, that, and the other. But I love who I've had to become now.
Mm-hmm.
I love who everyone's becoming now. So I'm really good. We launched our brand yesterday, so we've had a very successful launch of that. So I'm happy about actually finding a new way to contribute to, and in addition to the other ways that I try to contribute in the world. And I think that's been the piece that has made me feel so good through this, is as long as you can keep serving people and helping others, you're good, right? Like you have a purpose. And so that's sort of how I define success today. It's much, much cleaner and clearer than it was when I had all the accessories 8 months ago.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it feels a little bit weighted sometimes to say the last 8 months have been incredible, because there's been a lot of suffering. There's been a lot of loss. There's been fear. There's been struggle. But I do believe that without it, if we can look at it in the right way, the silver linings are incredible, and I wouldn't take back a day, because I have learned so many things about myself and my life and my business and what matters, and I've watched all of my close friends do the same. So there's definitely a lot of good in what's been happening, and I think it's an opportunity to learn and to evolve, and I think we're all watching everybody do that, and that's very inspiring. And I'm sure you've received this question just about a billion times, but I have to ask, in this new way of life, this pandemic way of life, how are you balancing, or let me use a different word. How are you navigating through this with, because you're home and you usually do travel a lot and you're balancing a lot of things, but you're now home. There's work, there's family, there's love, there's relationships, there's business. How are you navigating through it all, or how did you, maybe in the beginning?
Yeah, and I do feel very fortunate because I've actually worked the majority of my working life remotely. So, I'm a Kiwi living in California and was commuting to Amsterdam. I still work for that company over there that I devote half my work life to. And what I've found is that I just switched sitting on a plane for 10 hours, heading over to Amsterdam, to sitting at my desk for 10 hours, having the same conversations with the same people. So for me, living remote and being home, I'm either home at working or I'm out on the road and working in a hotel unit or, in a plane. So for me, the transition was actually very easy. I'm used to being on a laptop. I'm used to being in a coffee shop. I'm used to connection. So, and we were very fortunate, my husband and I, because our children are a little bit older. So they're teenagers, sort of 20 down to 13. So they're actually quite self-sufficient. The trick, of course, is keeping them off social media for 23 hours a day. But so they're pretty self-sufficient. My heart went out to anyone who's got three under fives, or, like just having to navigate kids that need that attention. So it has been, of course, there's been trying times. I mean, when the supermarkets were empty, and, we did have that moment of, wow, are we going to muck with the supply chain here? And are we actually going to starve to death in the United States of America? Like, we had that moment for a couple of weeks. But really, we've all, and when we're very fortunate, we have, we've got enough room in our house that we can all have that time out, because that's something I really need. And I think we've all noticed that we need. We've all lost our crap at times, and everyone's had a moment. And that's been the most interesting thing to navigate, is that when one person might be having a good day, the other four might not be, or those three are, but those two aren't. That's been interesting. And we've all had to deal with our anxiety. I mean, we live in a place that it's relatively normal, where, we're able to have nice sunshine. We do go out for walks. We go to the beach and there's distancing and there's a little bit of mask wearing, but it's not crazy. I don't feel like our children are being, their whole lives aren't being put on hold and stuff like that. So we've tried to keep it pretty normal at home, just calm things down, have slightly deeper conversations. My work's just gone on. That happens wherever I am. So that's been fortunate. And just sort of carving out a little bit of alone time, I think, has been very critical. I'm not very good when I'm stuck with everyone every minute of the day. I need that creative space. And we try to give each other, we try to talk about and give each other, what we need. So for me, it's actually not been too bad. Yeah, so that's probably been my experience. And I'm always a workaholic, so I'm always working. I know you are too.
What does communicating look like in your family? I always find that the families that inspire me the most are the ones that are really able to be transparent with each other, communicate. Whether you have like a family text group or whatnot, what does that look like at home for you?
Yeah, a variety of different things. So we do have teenage kids, and we know probably about 10% of what really goes on in their life. So we've worked really hard, to try to have the kids have friends back and stuff like that. We're in a variety of bubbles around here. Our son just had his 13th birthday, and we've as parents, have tried to really open the doors to have those relationships so that the kids feel comfortable bringing friends back here when and if, they're cleared to do so. So that's been one thing. And then with my immediate family, we've actually jumped on a Zoom call every week, which I know many, many families have done, but it's ridiculous. In our whole life together, we've never done that. And I actually feel closer as a family unit with my
Mm.
siblings and with our parents back in New Zealand. And that's been fascinating because we've got New Zealand, my sister and her husband are in Australia, and they're two girls. And then my brother is married to a Swede. So between us all, we kind of get this worldwide view, and including our views from the United States. So what's fascinating to me, and I don't know if you've seen The Social Dilemma, I just finally got around to watching it
That was
yesterday. But
going to be my next question. If you forced your kids to watch it yet.
well, I just said to my husband, we have to sit down on Sunday night and all sit down and watch this because it's so true. And you know what hit me? I mean, there's so many messages from it, right? But it's like we have these family Zooms. It's on a Sunday, my Saturday, their Sunday, and realizing, that they'll tell me what the politics are happening in the United States. I'll tell them what we're experiencing, and they're completely different stories. We are
Mm.
all fed a story. Do you
Yep.
know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and it's based on our preferences. And you and I have known this for the longest time, but it's 7 billion Truman shows. Like that stuck with me. And then just how sick we're making our children because they have no groundedness in their life.
Mm.
They are being completely created by a fabrication of their preferences that are fed to them through people that are trying to advertise to them to, basically, extort. It's extortion, basically.
Yeah.
And you're just shifting the nature and the fabric of how we think and who we become. And that has really hit me. So so how have we tried to do that at home? We try to have conversations. I'm well aware that our kids are at the age where they're trying to distance from us. They're trying to become independent adults in their own right. And we're trying to respect that. But we also realize that the rules are not fair. The crack stuff that's going in our brains right now through social media and other forms, and people who are smarter than us, who are paid to make us addicted to things that pull us in a certain direction. We're very aware of that. We try to have these conversations, and we have blow-ups at home, of course, because we're all quite passionate and we're all right. Five people who are right all the time. We try to do that, but I just try to stay close to the kids. I can't even begin to understand the teenage world. They'll have a conversation. I have no idea what they just said. And I consider myself cool, but I'm so not.
Definitely scared of those days. But as a side note, if anybody listening by the time this comes out has not watched The Social Dilemma, highly, 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 highly recommend it. If you can get your kids to watch it with you, I think that is even better. But very eye-opening. A lot of it, I think we all knew, but so important to make yourself highly aware of. We'll get a paycheck from The Social Dilemma, hopefully, after this. So speaking of being a workaholic and, being very busy in the last couple of months, you just launched a business, I think, a day or two ago. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, so really it was the idea happened in a bar top in London, really, as all great ideas do, all of my ideas anyway. Look, I connected with an old colleague from about 10 years ago. We actually hired her when I was working with Les Mills International back in Auckland. I was the People and Culture Director back then. And she was basically a trained lawyer, had wanted to, really get into the recruitment space, and basically came and worked for us, did a great job. I left, moved to the States. She went on to run People and Culture for the United States for Les Mills, and then went over to UK to do a similar thing on a global stage as well. So, we were talking. She said, look, I'm starting this company, or I've started this company, and we just started talking about it. And she was asking for some advice. We're bouncing around some ideas. And then we actually just said, this would actually be really cool to do together because, we want to build a lifestyle brand. I would love to spend some more time I was actually born in London. I'd like to spend more time in Europe and the UK. And they said that they'd eventually her and her husband would eventually like to come back to the States and spend some more time here. And so we just got talking and we thought, oh, let's get into it. So with this shared experience in people and culture in the past, she had started a recruitment firm, essentially, headhunting people in the fitness sector. And so anyway, we got talking, and it sounded like a great idea. So we got together, we hooked up with a few other colleagues from Les Mills. We did a really wonderful brand exercise with a friend, Elliot, who'd done a wonderful digital agency that was quite open sourced in London. Went through a big process, and actually we were trading. She was actually doing business through the whole of COVID times, just because, you want to make sure that you've got something relevant that people want in the new world. And it was going well. It's buoyant. We're having to pivot, and we had to move a little bit more into the wellness health sector, rather than just fitness, because fitness, particularly the bricks and mortar side, which you and I are so familiar with, was definitely beginning to shift and change and evaporate in some ways. So anyway, we came out and yesterday, and we developed this concept, and so we launched Good Soul Hunting, which is an executive search brand, which really places its perfect people placement in the health and fitness sector. So we really go after roles like C-suites, all the senior roles and senior specialist roles, because what we're seeing now is that most of the companies coming through, and we trade more in the startup and the scale up phase. So businesses that are more in their initiation phases, maybe they've done their first round of funding, and they're really looking to expand their senior leadership team. That's sort of a sweet spot for us. What we've also found is that we're really good for fit tech startups, well tech startups, and then people in things like telehealth, and also businesses that are trying to crack the United States. Our whole team are not recruiters. We've all had real jobs, and real roles, and we know how to scale products in other countries and all the watch outs that happen there. So we've currently got some great businesses coming in from India, from Israel, as well as, obviously more strongly from the United States and the United Kingdom, which is where we're based. So based out of London, LA and New York, and of course placing around the world. There's no real barriers today, but we do have expertise and people on the ground in those places. So so really exciting, and we've just went live yesterday, and there's a whole lot of people flooding in, and we're busy and happy to be helping people get ahead faster. Because really, as you know, with the digital conversation, that's probably been fast forwarded 2 or 3 years, and people are really accelerating now. You've really got to have a great team if you want to sort of grab market and get your business back online. Yeah.
First of all, congratulations. That's incredible. Second, I absolutely love the name, but I'm not surprised. You're a branding queen. I mean, it's so important as I look back at my, the past 11 years specifically. People are everything, and it's very difficult to find the right fit. It's very difficult to understand even what you need before. I think it took 11 years. It's funny. Someone came onto our team at probably a little less than a year ago, and he came to me recently and he said, every team I've ever joined always has a weak link. There's always that one person, and he goes, that doesn't exist at Pound. Everybody is so all in, both feet in the door, passionate. The work ethic is there, and it was such a cool compliment. But it's taken a really long time to get there. And anytime you need to evolve to the next phase, it usually means another person. So it's such good work, and I think it's amazing. And I'm excited to watch your journey with it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's been wonderful so far. And I mean, people like, it was that was what really got me across the line. Was I love people, and I love purpose-led companies, and and we don't deal with assholes. I mean, you don't attract them. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the people out there, extortionists, like the whole thing, and that's whatever. We don't care. There's enough good souls out there trying to do good stuff, and that's on the company or the brand side as well as the person side. So we're loving it so far. It's amazing.
So cool. Speaking of starting businesses, I specifically remember, very early days of Pound being told that I was, too young to be a CEO, that people wouldn't take me seriously because I was 24 years old and a woman and had zero experience in the fitness industry. And I mean, the reality is that women are told from a very young age, whether that be directly or indirectly, that they can't, they shouldn't, or they don't deserve to so many times throughout life. And I can't imagine that you haven't, in a male dominated industry, heard many of the same things. Can you share any of your experiences that you've had, and how you've navigated your way through them through the years?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I was thinking about that aspect the other day because, to be honest, like I guess when the whole Me Too movement kind of came through, I guess last year, over the last couple of years, it was really interesting to me because I hadn't had one of those moments in my life, and then that made me sort of unpack another whole set of thinking, I guess, which was the first half of my career, I actually behaved like a guy, and I didn't realize that until now, essentially. So what I mean by that was because I came from Les Mills, and back in the day, my first real job was sort of going around the world and being a master trainer for Body Pump, where really I took it on as, what's my job? My job is to bench press as much as the guys. It's to talk smack. It's to drink 8 jugs of beer at the bar and and do business at 4 a.m. I mean, that was basically that was sort of my remit, which I naturally took on. And, I obviously had the physique and the frame and the mentality to take that on. But I realized that that was how I got ahead in the first half of my career, where women, were definitely not front of the bus and certainly not being shaped for see anything unless it was HR or something like that. One of the girly things, like where you got to talk to people and be nice, and or maybe do the dirty work. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, literally, when I looked back, because I don't have a whole host of moments where I think I wasn't given an opportunity. However, how it has manifested in me, I believe, is that I didn't step into some of those roles that perhaps I should have or would have or would today if it was more of an obvious choice of things I could do. So what it pushed me to do, and this is how I ended up running my career, was to going off and carving a path on my own with no accountability. Do you know what I mean? So I actually avoided, I think, structural situations where I could have led a team or should have led a team, but it didn't really occur to me. So I think that insecurity sat in me, but not necessarily in my consciousness, which is sort of an odd answer to your question. But I had to think about it deeply around how it's manifest in my life. I would never have seen myself as a 24-year-old CEO as you have. You know what I mean? I think I avoided that whole conversation, operated in the male world, still served on executive leadership teams and stuff like that, but actually never went for the big job because maybe that wasn't part of my psyche. So,
Yeah.
and now, of course, and I've watched many, many stories of women, and I hear them. Now we've got Black Lives Matter. We've got so many conversations of people just not feeling like it's an option, or that option being taken away, or it being just subtly or very loudly made clear that this will never be you. That crown will never sit on your head. And that's been quite astonishing for me, because I sort of wander around in a little bubble, I think, sometimes, because I don't judge. I mean, I judge work, and I critique work, and I edit work, but I don't judge people. So, in many ways, I've been flawed by the Black Lives Matter and flawed by people not being considered for things, because it's not who I see. And that's why good soul hunting to me is so amazing. I see the potential in a person. Like, if I was around, in your early days, I would see that potential in you. And I'm like, that girl got heart, she's going to make something of this thing. She's going to make people feel a certain way. So, the world astonishes me every day. But yeah, I absolutely take your point.
Yeah. No, that's really, that's very honest and vulnerable feedback, and I love that movement, both movements, kind of, and that says a lot about you. Made you kind of look inwards. I think when I look back, there's a couple key things that made me naive enough to put my blinders on, as in nothing really was going to stop me. But I went to an all girls school first and foremost, which I hated. But I realized later in life, there was no men around, and because of that, you could be the class clown, you could be the loud, crazy person, you could wear the funny outfits, and there wasn't that pressure. And I think part of that shaped me and my view on myself. I'm also, privileged enough to be able to have those opportunities and the ones that I had early on. But it's again, you could probably talk about this for hours, but it's such an interesting lens to look through, and a good place to put a mirror in front of yourself and ask those questions like you did. Um, which leads me to my next question, which I think is also what played such a huge role in shaping your incredible journey. There are a trillion things that I love about you, like so many. I look up to you very much like I know so many people do. But one of my favorite things is that you are the real deal when it comes to being rebellious, not like trendy, I'm a rebel, like not dip your toes in the water rebellious. You're like dive in fully clothed with your cell phone in your pocket rebellious. And it's inspiring. And you have seemed to stay very true to yourself throughout your entire journey. How have you stayed so fearless? And how do you keep, quote unquote, Emma and that fire on track?
Oh, first of all, thank you for those compliments. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. You're lovely to. Um, you know, it's a really interesting question, and I guess 3 years ago when I decided to go out and give consultancy a go, not under the auspices of a corporate company. That was quite a scary moment for me, but it was necessary because here's the reality. I was finding it very hard to be me, all of me, under anyone else's banner. And it's actually, I think things are shifting now in some companies. I think we do welcome the whole person to work. And I've had incredible experiences through all the companies and the many brands that I've got to work with, sort of my 25, 30 years in fitness. But so what have I done to keep myself? To be honest, I've moved on when I was told to either stay in my lane or to calm down. So I actually had to make that decision, and whether that was changing a role or changing a company or changing a country that I was living in or whatever it was, I did actually have to move on. So I've got something, and there's a streak in me, and I know that you relate to this because I see those three fingers in the air, when you guys are pounding it out. But it's like there's some things inside me that if you rub up against them, I have to go away because I won't change those things. I can't change those things, and maybe it's a stubbornness and maybe it's a stupidity, but it's just who I am, and I've just always known that I do have to honour that at the end of the day. So, and it wasn't until I came out, and I mean, I'll go live most weeks, and my mouth is a potty, and the whole thing, and it's just like my poor parents who are still with us, and I'm sure they have their moments when they're like, "Oh, Emma," I'm sure, but it is so invigorating to be you. When you're just unapologetically you,
Yeah.
and your friends and your family love you for that. And I have been fortunate. Like I have had a strong past, and I've been strong physically, and I've had a wonderful friend and a family network that really do support you on the way through. So again, I don't feel like I've spent my whole life getting over being mortified by something at some point or psychologically damaged. I mean, we're all damaged. I mean, my parents, they're so funny. My mum would always say, our job is to muck you up so you spend the rest of your life trying to sort your stuff out. You know what I mean? Something along those lines. But I do remember I was still overly concerned by what my parents thought right up until I was about 40, to be honest. And then something happened. I thought, well, this is ridiculous. I've just got to be me, and it is what it is. And I don't go out to hurt people, but I have to be me. And then I remember the day I actually let go of some particular issue that I was hanging on to. I let go of the rope, and then the rope wasn't there. And it was the funniest thing. I was like, wow, there's only heat in that thing because you're bringing it. And
Mm-hmm.
you only let go one end of the rope for the other end to not matter anymore. And I think, when I look at people, holding grudges for decades or, even in these times, like, oh, we don't talk to that part of the family, or I've really annoyed that person, or I hope I don't run into that person, or you see this stuff out there and you're like, wow, we're actually carrying that round. That is actually luggage. So I've really enjoyed it. I don't feel like
Physical, yeah.
Yeah, physical luggage. So I don't feel like I carry that luggage. So what have I done? I've just always followed my heart. I do things that I love. I don't enjoy being closed down. So if I find myself in an environment where I just avoid those environments now, I don't even avoid them. They just don't. They're not attracted to me. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
when I got
Yeah.
very clear on my why, like, and that was 2 or 3 years ago now. So once I really knew what I was about, you start to make different decisions. So in a nanosecond, you know if you're going to go right or left. And so you start ending up being more and more and more in an environment that you love and that you've created, and less in an environment that's created by other people. And you've done that. That's why you started your business. You knew what you wanted to do. You knew what you wanted to create. You knew the sorts of people that you wanted around you, and you went out and you bloody created it. And it's as simple as that. I mean, it's not as simple as that. There's a million things, but the point is you knew what you created. And if something doesn't suit you, you change it, or you lose that person, or you change a process, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so that's the same thing around your own personal brand. I mean, I do a lot of mentoring, and a lot of people come to me, and we just do lots of simple exercises like, what do you want in your life? Most people don't know what they want in their life, but they know what they don't want. So often I find myself working with, well, let's start with what you don't want, and then try and work towards the other side.
Yep.
Quite fascinating. A lot of us are lost. I mean, the amount of people, just with our brand launching yesterday, obviously we're in a recruitment space, a lot of people are out of work. My inbox is absolutely flooding over with people who are lost. They don't know who they are.
Mm.
They've lost who they are.
Yeah.
They sold their soul. They had to go and work under some other banner. They cannot define themselves now that they don't have the brand above their head, those that have lost roles. And that's hard to hear, but I've been there. And you've got to let go of that ledge at some point. And unfortunately, it's been pushed upon us now. But this is a wonderful opportunity to dig deeper and find out who you are. And it's that little 7-year-old child, right? It's that same person. You're the same person. You just forgot. You forgot along the way.
Uh, yes, 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 and yes. I think one of the bits of advice that I have given people in the past, and that I was able to do unknowingly before the age of 24, and I definitely drove my parents absolutely batshit crazy with, is from college to 24, had experienced 6 different industries, from the food industry to the entertainment industry to the fashion industry. Any type of boss you could imagine, any type of coworker you could imagine. And along the way, although I'm sure my mother was like, oh my gosh, I have a kid that can't stick with anything. The second it felt wrong, off, or wasn't lighting me up, I would move on. Um, and because I got all that in so early, I was also able to really observe, you know, that boss was, I'm never going to do that, or I'm going to do that. So you take the good and the bad. And I think you do have to be kind of fearless to do that, though, but it's so important. And then as you go through that process, you're able to curate what you really want and need, and figure out what your purpose is. So you are you are spot on. And I know that we've had this conversation before. It's so funny when you look back into in like even the games you played as a kid, what lit you up, what excited you. Those are the things that if you are lost, I remember Lindsay talking about, having these, tea parties and events and bringing people together. And she's like, look at what I do today. That's what I do today. So I think that's a good bit of advice. If you ever feel lost, just go back and get in touch with what got you excited as a kid, even if it was making balls of dirt in the backyard.
Yeah. And you said a really important word a little while ago, and that's do. Most of the people that I speak with who are stuck haven't done any doing in a while. So they actually haven't physically manifest or physically stepped into one of their dreams or their decisions. And it's kind of like, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, just do something
Yeah.
and you will know. You will know. See, look at you. You went and you got your 6 jobs, your 6 bosses, your 6, resignations, whatever, but you're 6 conversations smarter. A lot of people go, oh, well, I nearly did this and I want to do that. And what about this? And what happens if that happens? And I'm like, who cares? Just find out, step into it.
I know that the saying is life is short, but my saying is life is long. And I think that once you recognize that, you recognize that the amount of chapters that you can add to your book of life is many, many, many more than you think. And um, I feel like once you understand that, you can take those chances and do. I know that when you have a family and you have people who depend on you, it becomes a little bit more difficult. But man, there's so much to accomplish and so much to do, and I love seeing people, evolve and learn different sides of themselves and go into different industries, and it's cool.
It sure is.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the fitness industry because, wow, it has been a bit of a whirlwind. And when COVID hit, we very quickly went from primarily, in-person workouts, not just Pound, but the world, with some steadily growing streaming businesses to almost completely virtual. I think you know this about me. I was very verbally against the virtual world and experience because human connection is so immensely important to me and what we do. I'd love to hear from your perspective what's on the other side of this for us, or what do you think is on the other side of this for us?
Yeah, look, well, I think there's a few things that probably need to be framed. One is, of course, the $2 trillion tech giant Apple have just come out and validated fitness. So, and really, if you think about it, put a hospital and a gym on our wrist. So they have done that. Everyone knows, or I think they should know. I mean, it was funny. Lucy, who's one of my partners in the new business, we were just on actually the WEFA podcast previously, and she was just sort of saying, "Oh, look, there we were in the Sweat event, which was the UK Active Boutique event in February of this year, 2020." And I was delivering the keynote, which was basically talking about, big tech is coming, guys. We do need to consider a hybridized world
Mm-hmm.
because it's just coming. It's slowly coming. But if you look at other industries, retail, hospitality, the whole thing, it's definitely being driven digital. So it's really going to become a thing. They are seeing how much money that people are spending on lifestyle. Let's call it a broader piece, lifestyle or wellness. So that's everything from what I eat, what I think, what I do, how I exercise, who I hang out with socially. The whole thing is becoming sort of one, and then you throw athleisure in there as well. So it's a massive, massive category. We know that all of those things, and beauty, we know that all of that stuff now is sort of sitting at the $4.5 trillion mark. So it's enormous. So first of all, you've got Apple and big tech coming in. Then you've got the fact that, health. You look at all the things that stress us out. If you really want to get stressed out, talk about health and create a health crisis. Talk about money and have a big economic downturn, and then also throw in there a civil rights movement as well, where you're just questioning, how we are actually operating as human beings, and then actually realize that we haven't actually evolved our thinking really in a very long time. Like, we still keep doing stupid things, treating people terribly and going round and round. So there's sort of some things that are framing that. Then when we look at the fitness world, we're only about 50 years old. If you look back, really organized exercise and gyms and what have you are really only about 50 years old. We've sort of evolved a little bit. We still have little studios. We still stand up the front. We still put music on and wear lycra and all of that stuff. So, we've evolved, but not that far. And then, of course, so I would say, what is on the other side of all of this? And there's a fair amount of fear as well. If you're reading the press, and I'm sure you are, it's doomsday on clubs. Do you know what I mean? And you've got people feeding that, everyone from Gillian Michaels through to hospitals, through to scientists, through to the whole thing about, there's not so much the big stories about, if you're healthy and a healthy weight and you feel great about yourself and you're socially active and you're moving every day and you're getting your blood going and your health's healthy and your bones are healthy and your mind's clear, there's not much of that going around. It's all about, well, if you go to a gym, you're going to contract this and then you're going to die. Like, that's basically what we're up against. So you've kind of got fear and division. And if we go back to the social networking point that we made before, you've got people that are really, really strong in their beliefs, whether it's I'm all for the gym or I'm all against it, those people are sort of digging in. So you've kind of got this big division. So what's happening going forward? Look, absolutely, it's a hybridized future. So there's definitely going to be an ecosystem of both in-person and also digitally delivered solutions. Some people will do both. Some people will do one or the other. Some people just want to be with other people, and that might be a generational thing. Although, interestingly, if you think about the older population have been at risk during these times as well. So where they would normally come together and have a cup of tea, or come together and do a Tai Chi class, or come together and do some resistance toning class or something like that, maybe they have been held apart and they've been taught now how to use digital out of necessity. So I think there's been a whole lot of habits that have been forced upon us that have got people over the acceptance hump of digital, because you have to. Secondly, I believe in the next 6 months we're going to see some pretty big jumps in terms of AR and VR, so augmented reality, virtual reality, the ability to experience something as if you are there. Now, without getting into the philosophical discussions around that, when you do VR or when you see something really incredible, you actually physiologically react as if you're there. You just have to look at all the 12-year-old boys doing gaming. They literally feel like they're in that game, shooting those people, winning the war, or whatever it is, whatever game that they're playing. And I think that's played out in wars and mental health issues and all the sorts of things that we have. But what I'm saying is technology is getting very close to being able to emulate an in-person experience, at least in the mind. I'm not saying the whole body. I think it's definitely a mind hack, a mind trick. But all of these things are happening around us and swirling, and they're really going to change the nature of things. And we see that through our kids' addictive nature to social media, etc. So I also think that we're building a pent-up demand to be together again. We're human beings. We're tribal. We love being together. We're built to be together. We can't, procreate without being together, like all of those things. So we have these instinctual drives, but at the same time, we also have a fear factor being wedged in between at least a proportion of all the humans on Earth. So you've kind of got all these big social things happening, and then you're having people actually adapting. In order for us to be together, we now want you to stand apart, wear this, do that. So there's all these restrictions around stuff, and again, that fibre inside me, and I'm sure that fibre inside you, while I want to be healthy and not, go out there and put people at risk, there's a part of me that's going, hell no, not on my watch. I'm not going to sit here and become some dumbed down number, that's told what to do. So there's a fire going on in me right now as I see which way the cards are going to fall on various things.
Mm-hmm.
But but back to the question, fitness it is different. We know that now. I mean, I just got a text from a friend in Paris. They're just closing the clubs in Paris again. So, so here we go again. Now, what we know is the first time back, everyone was keen to come back. Those that were keen, roughly 80% of a lot of the clubs came back. The second time back, not so many, because now you're dealing with indecision. Humans do not like not knowing what's going on. If you start mucking with the formula, we're open, we're closed, we're open, we're closed, I just lose interest and I go and find another solution. So that's what we're up against now with the fitness industry in terms of coming back. Other things that are happening in fitness, I would say, you have to think that all our biometrics have been taken forward 3 years as well. So whether it's your MyZones, your Apple Watches, your Fitbits, your Whoops, all that technology, they're now trying to build platforms that you can go live on, ways that we can integrate that data. Smart houses. I mean, CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, is coming up. We're doing it virtual in January. Mind blowing. Highly recommend if anyone wants to know what on earth's going on in the world. I would try and get on that because it blows my mind. Like, the fitness industry is about coming last in terms of development of technology. So if you want to see where the world is going, I think that's a really interesting thing. What else about fitness? I think, with Apple coming online and who knows what Amazon and those guys, they're definitely partnering up with people to sort of deliver services and goods as well. There's going to be a much greater awareness. I think people will crack motivating the unmotivated. You and I have been in the era of motivating the motivated, people who actually don't mind getting off the green couch and actually doing something. But there's a whole great unwashed out there of people who are addicted to sugar and fat and sitting on the couch and Netflix. And to actually get them off in the same way that Zumba did, back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
in the physical world, I believe someone's going to have to come up with a way to do that. But at the same time, you're competing with the food industry that's now trying to do, fake meat, fake coffee, fake sugar, fake uppers, downers. I mean, you're competing with every type of consumable, and fitness is just a consumable if you think about it in a very, very productized way. And you have to look at the fabric of social psychology to see what happens next. But the body's built to move, at least still. If we keep going down this path, I think we're going to do less and less, and we're going to become more cerebral. So that's something that I know you and I are very invested in not doing. We want people to stay in their bodies, keep using their bodies, enjoy their bodies, love their bodies, share their bodies. Like, I think that's a very
Yeah.
big thing. That's the industry that we're in. But we're up against a war. You're up against, a lot of other industries that are trying to get your attention. You know what I mean? Own your mind, own your mind share.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think I have a vision for my hopeful vision is that, to your point, I think I read a Forbes article recently that a lot of consumers who maybe felt, judged or embarrassed to go to a physical or live class before are now opening themselves up to, in-home workouts where they can feel a little bit more comfortable. I would hope that we begin to crack open the opportunity for new participants. I would hope that as much as virtual becomes a reality, people become a reality. And I've talked to our team about this so much. It's our answer is in the instructor for us. How do we make teaching group fitness flexible, lucrative, feel like something they can depend on, something they can control? Because ultimately, I really do believe, and I will always believe, that people need each other. It's human nature to need to be connected physically in the same room. But I also really believe in humans and the power of community. And so for me, it's how do we fit into what the future looks like, but really put the power in the instructor's hands and allow them to lead their communities and almost go back to the way, that things used to exist, really community based, leadership based, and allow for group fitness to live online in a really beautiful way. I certainly have seen the benefits of it and the value and the way that it has connected our community globally, which could have never happened before, which has been so beautiful to watch. But also, people need each other, they need support, and they want to come together. So I would hope that there's an evolution on both sides and growth on both sides. But I tend to think very positively.
Yeah, and it's a good thing, and that's why you're needed as a leader in the space. And I agree. There is still nothing beats being there. Be it the amazing class. You're next to someone. You're in the room. Those special things that happen in that moment. I always liken it to the music industry, right? Like, you can buy the perfectly recorded record,
Mm-hmm.
or download or whatever it is, but you go to the concert, you were there. They cracked that jokes. They looked you in the eye. You were jumping up and down in the mosh pit with who knows what you're going to be doing tomorrow, but, with the other 300,000 people who adore their music, adore their messages, they're singing every word. And there's nothing, there is nothing quite like that. I just worry about the restrictions that will be put around that, and that feels a little bit out of our hands, and that concerns me. So again, that has me rising up inside around, what needs to be done, because we're all trying the same thing at Les Mills. My friends at Les Mills are also trying to keep that instructor front and center. But you're just up against so many things. It's a very interesting jigsaw puzzle right now.
Absolutely. And on a more micro level, what can instructors and small business owners be doing to empower themselves right now and stay ahead and keep their chin up. I am the ultimate optimist, but I know there will be, I don't want to say an end to this, there will be a shift to a different type of future. How do we, what type of advice do we give, our instructors, our business owners to keep going?
Right. So I think a few things. One is keep doing. So I think, that word that we talked about before, the moment that you stop and you just fall into analysis, and then the whole world of, negativity can come in on you. So stay active. And even if you're out of work right now, do something where you're serving the community, even if it's, serving, whether you're serving soup at the, at the local kitchen, whatever it is, keep in service. So that would be my first thing. Secondly, reach out to some people who can pull you up. You are only 3 calls or 1 call away from someone who can pull you out of a funk or give you some advice to take the next step. So these things are all very, you've got to keep moving. The next thing is that I would definitely follow the data. People are trying to make too many decisions where the market is already deciding for you. So this is what when I work with a lot of businesses, boutiques, etc., and a lot of them are still coming online and doing very well in different parts of the world right now, but follow the data. Okay, you no longer need a marketing director to tell you which image to go with. Your market will tell you that. You no longer need to know whether it's a 9:15 or a 9:30 time that you should go live, because your market's going to tell you that. There's a whole lot of decisions you don't need to make. What you should be focusing on is notice what people need more of, and then have a really deep discussion around, okay, so you've put out that you want to create community. I think you've done a great job. I think some businesses have done an okay job. Most of us have done a shit job of building community. Like, if you really get down to it, what does your community need? And really, why, what, and get really deep. Because I think we need to do a better job of the human moments. And I think we're only just scratching the surface of what humans actually need. And I think during COVID times, we've got to know people deeper. How can we now take that deepness and put it into a community? We had a great conversation yesterday. I'm in a business accelerator right now with a whole lot of investment people who know a lot more about numbers and spreadsheets than I do, but we sort of were exploring the soul cycle example yesterday, and we had some of the team on from around the world just talking about how the cultish following had been created. And there was a lot of discussion around the creation of that community. We do find now that people are coming out of cult, and you'll find this in some of the other brands where there's been a cultish following, like I'm not using it in a negative sense, but just a highly, highly engaged sense, where the evangelists of a brand really drive something out there. We're now coming out into something else where people they don't necessarily want their soul owned, but they want to be a part of something. What does that new something look like? That's where I would be spending my time. Is really exploring the humanness, and how can we bring the humanness in a way that's not creepy, but just is really deeper, and it's more engaging. What do I need right now? And that's where I'd be spending my time, like for the business owners, because that's the piece that technology is not going to be able to deliver, and that's the piece that will, if you create something, I can leave a business, but I'm not going to leave a friend. And it's definitely built on that tenet,
Such
of,
good advice. Such good advice.
yeah. So those would be some of the things. And then just be learned, and be easy on yourself. You're going to have a crap day every so often. Just accept it, have a glass of wine, go to bed and try again tomorrow. Like, it's, you just have to, you got to roll with it, because there's so much uncertainty, and it's every stress that matters to a human being is being put us right now. And let's not even get into conspiracy theories. I've got a bunch of those as well. We got a bunch of stuff being done to us, but who's going to survive? The adaptable, those that can morph with the time, those that have a purpose, and those that can serve in the new world. Maybe stop judging what's serving in the old world. You kind of have to let go a little bit of the past without letting go what you deem important, but just accept the way that is expressed and manifest in the future world might look a little bit different than it did in the rear vision mirror.
Yeah.
So I think definitely anyone who's not adjusting to that is really struggling right now. It is not the good old days. It is never going to be the good old days again. Sure, there'll be some remnants from that, but it's not going to look like that now.
Yep.
So try and let go of the bits that aren't going to serve you, and try and jump on the bits that are. Remember who you are, and find a new way to serve.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think that's incredible advice, and I think it might sound obvious. Think about what your customers really want. Humanize it, but it's not always. And I think we say that so much at Pound when whether we're posting something on social media or creating a challenge, it's so easy to just create, but it's a little bit harder to stop yourself and say, wait, what does my community actually need right now? Like you have to put yourself in, you know, so and so's shoes and think about what their day to day life is, and the fact that they're dealing with their family and taking care of their kids and balancing this new way of life. Those are the really, really important things to do and stop and check yourself with, whether you're just starting or, 10 years down the road. So I absolutely love that advice. I think it's perfect, whether you're a business owner or not. Um, so, last but not least, um, so Emma, you share what you call badass bullets every Sunday, um, which, if everybody who is listening right now does not follow you already, get what are you doing with your life? We'll have you share all of your socials and everything at the end. But can you leave us today with a few badass bullets?
Yeah, so I've been leaning into an acronym of CALM. So a few things. First is your poverty serves no one. So in the fitness industry, we've been conditioned to not think of this as a real business industry. We've been conditioned to think that fitness should be given away for free and that it's sort of dirty to ask for money and all of that. But basically, your poverty serves no one. You are not going to get food on the table. You're not going to serve anyone unless you take care of business. And if you're not in the business of making money, you're not in business. So that has been a hard lesson that I think many, many colleagues and friends and myself and everyone I know has had to really come to terms with. Every other business is out there doing well. So don't be ashamed. And there might be some beliefs that need to shift around that. So don't be ashamed of making money out of what you do, because if you're not making money, you cannot pay it forward. And some of the most generous people I know make a lot of money and they give a lot of money away and they rise a lot of people up. But you can only do that when you're not in poverty. So that's sort of one of the things. And then I'd lean into my acronym, which is CALM, CALM. And these are things that I've tried to sort of embrace through COVID times, just to remain human and to remain useful and resourceful and all of that stuff. So C is connect. So every single day in some way I will reach out and try and connect. So whether it's with family, and I think we've all been through our long lost friends, all our boyfriends, all our, like I think everyone's gone through their whole list of their whole life. Whole life has flashed in front of them over 8 months or whatever it was. So connect. And also, I've had so many conversations with people I otherwise would not have had access to if we were each so busy in our stupid little lives pre-COVID, running around doing I can't even remember what. So there has been access, much easier access. And I think even looking at events going forward, I think we will now get, even in the fitness industry, we'll get some of the top presenters in the world, bar none, because they can appear virtually, and we're not going to judge the fact that they're not standing in the room for $50,000 and a week out of their life and all of that stuff. So connect with family, connect with yourself, whatever, and reach out, and don't stop reaching out, because people always give back and it always comes back tenfold. So that's the first one. A is for act. And it's really related to that word do that we've spent a bit of time around. It's got so much equity in it. Act means being in the art of moving, of motion. And even if it's the wrong direction, you'll know that pretty quickly and you'll adjust. So don't judge the movement, just do something. Do. Get going, be at, vote. Vote, stand up, protest if you need to, say something, reach out. Like, don't sit there and agonize over it. Get up, find the power time in your day and do some stuff, because from that, we're human beings. We need to get a little bit of that endorphin hit of sending it, what we call send it. My son plays soccer for Galaxy, and it's like you send it at the goal. You've got to get something out the door, like send the email, reach out, do the thing, follow through, get the job done, especially when we're being dumbed down. And that's the hardest thing that I've struggled with over this time, is the domesticity that seems to have settled in a little bit. I don't like it. I don't like becoming numb. So do things to remind you of how great you are, because that's actually going to come back. And the next one is L for laugh. So, it can be tough, like you, Kirsten, I'm sure you've known many people have lost their jobs, their livelihood, their identity. A lot of everyone I know in New York pretty much is moving out. I mean, it's really, really crazy times. Find some laugh. I mean, comedy is amazing. We've got some amazing comedians, those sorts of things. Maybe movies that make you feel good. Like, just remember the lighter side as we're treading through some pretty heavy topics. Like, just laugh, ring up people that are just, those people in your life that really bring out the stories and the fun and, relive stuff, all that sort of stuff. And then the last one is move. So this is our bread and butter, right? Like, you need to move the energy through your body. I think everyone's pretty much, well, you had a good excuse, but everyone's pretty much put on COVID-19, and we need to keep that shifting. But it's not about weight loss. It's about feeling robust and feeling good and moving that energy through your body. And I mean, I know I've been going hard on the bike. We're very, very fortunate to have 2 bikes in the garage, which my husband will do every second day. But, I have almost no hip flexors left now. And I'm sure I've lost like 2 inches in height. So I've got to step back. Into my yoga. So move and find things that are joyful, and find things that can connect you to other people. I do my booty classes with my daughters. I do my cycling with my husband, and I do my soccer training with my son. And I adore those moments. While we're stuck at home, there are 3 different flavors, and they give me a deeper relationship with each of my family members. So calm.
I love it. I'm going to write that down and put it on my mirror so I remember. That's a good one. I hope everybody does too. So where can our listeners find you, Emma?
Yeah, look, I'm most prolific on Instagram these days. I haven't sort of traversed over to TikTok. Mind you, I don't know how long TikTok's going to be around, but so I'm on Instagram. So at Emma CC, which are my middle name, CC Barry. And the Good Soul Hunting brand. So if you are a person, who suits, what we do, or perhaps a brand, Good Soul Hunting, and we have a website.com. We're on Instagram, same name, and we're on LinkedIn, obviously, which is the Facebook for businesses. So those are the places that you will find me.
Amazing. And before we depart today, I just want to say thank you. I think it's because of people like you that people like me didn't question if it was possible or not. I think that you have set such an incredible example, and no matter if I see you in person or I see a post on Instagram or whatnot, I'm always left so inspired, but there isn't a piece of it that isn't, 1,000,000% authentic. And that's hard to find. And I'm just really grateful to know a little tiny piece of you. So thank you. And thank you for the conversation today. I know that so many things are on so many people's minds around the world, and it will be really helpful. A good, helpful listen.
Oh, babe, thank you so much for having me, and all the best with your big day. And you mean the world to me. I adore you, and I absolutely love what all the waves and the love and the pound and the community and the team that you've built around the world. I mean, it's beyond none, and you've just done and will continue to do great work, and it'll get even deeper, because I think being a mum and with your intentions still being pure after eight months of lockdown and and the whole thing, you are one of the good ones. You're one of the good souls, and anything I can do to help, just reach out and thank you. And I hope everyone out there, like, just be yourself, be authentic, stop hiding, like, just be you. You are enough. Go for it. We love you just the same, and if we don't, then bugger off. Like, be you.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Big Green Couch. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on either iTunes or Spotify, and to follow us on Instagram at The Big Green Couch.